Lonely spire crawling on the floor. Lonely spire longing for love once more.
I'll circle back if there's more I can share with you. But I'll circle back with you if there's more to convey. I'll have to just circle back with you. We can circle back with. I'm happy to circle back with you. I can circle back. I will have to circle back on that one. That's an excellent question. Oh, such an important question. We will circle back with you, and we'll circle back with you. It's an interesting question, but we'll circle back. I'm happy to circle back, but I'll have to circle back with you on it. It's a good question, but we'll circle back with you on this today. We will certainly circle back with you more directly. I hate to disappoint you, but I will have to circle back with you on that as well.
We'll have to circle back to that.
I think so. She deserves a circle back, I think.
Yeah. We'll have to look into her a little bit more and circle back to you.
Yeah, that's
on
right.
what we discover. And as soon as we discover what we need to, we'll circle back and let you know.
Well, Julie, I need to circle back to you about how I feel about that. But
yeah, let's circle back to this. Welcome to Bookmark. This is our once a week podcast that we do actually every 2 weeks.
Every other week, yeah.
Yeah, every other week.
Yeah.
This is our every other week podcast that we do. We try to put it out every Monday. So we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule despite some computer glitches and despite the fact that we still need to finish up our video.
Right. So,
our next video essay.
And we'll get into that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But it looks like we're on time this week.
Yeah, it looks like things are rolling along well. It is cold in the east.
Yeah, it's been snowing a lot.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people are. But that said,
they're over it.
Well, I'm over a lot of things. The cold is least of my worries, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about sake. We were just talking about how we would love to have some sake, but that's spelled differently.
Yeah. So the new Speaker of the House is Jen Psaki.
Right.
And she was with the Obama administration. Mm-hmm. She was the head of the Department of Communications from 2015 to 2017, and then she was the Undersecretary of State, or the Assistant to the Undersecretary of State, from I think 2013 to 2015. So she's an insider. Right,
and I think she was also on staff with the first year or two of the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's a Washington piece of shit, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Despite her political affiliation being not party-wise, but like her designation as a political Washington insider, she is very corporate.
Yes.
In her demeanor and her presentation, and I think that's something that I think that was really thoroughly introduced in the Obama administration.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
the W administration was.
I don't know what that mess was, but with the Obama administration, I mean, you had Barack Obama was very much like what your middle management manager at your local department in San Francisco could totally identify with. He's the managerial class.
Right, he had the demeanor, and I've worked in enough corporations. I worked at a company that became BlackRock.
Scary.
But they were different back then. They were a different type of. They were called Barclays Global Investors,
right?
And they came out of Wells Fargo,
and then they became BlackRock.
Yeah, but the CEO at the time was a woman who was very. I even liked her. I mean, she was very solid. She knew how to present. She knew how to talk well. She talked good. And, when Obama became president, it reminded me of that. Not that, I'm comparing him to a woman, but what I'm trying to say is he had that corporate speak. He had that presentation and that, that sense of being able to talk to people, but it was still very
oblique. Yeah. So you could literally be like, we both have corporate backgrounds, right? So you could literally be in like an hour meeting and all of this, language and corporate speak would come out and every question you had would never get answered. They would always have to circle back to it at a later date.
Or they would obfuscate somehow.
Obfuscate, right. Exactly. Yeah. And I'm seeing a lot of people in social media that maybe they don't have a corporate background. Maybe they are in another field. And they're having a really difficult time understanding why they get so angry when, I'm thinking of one person in particular, when, say, the manager of your local pool is turning you away, and yet she hasn't really been mean. She's just been like, I'm really sorry to hear that you're frustrated. I can go ahead and, move the goalpost down the line, and I can, take this information that you're giving me and hand it off to someone else. And the tone of her voice is really sympathetic. It's a little condescending. It's always condescending when you're in the corporate world. Mm-hmm. And it's always like, oh, let's circle back to this at a later date when things are back to normal, Right. And that's what you're getting. You're getting this really polite corporate response in the face of fucking fascism. You're literally getting this. You're being ameliorated,
right?
And that's why you're frustrated.
And it also comes out as it's a very blunt force of bureaucracy, right?
Yeah.
Where on one hand she's being very nice and corporate and beige and customer servicey.
But not even customer service.
No,
that's totally gone.
Well,
right?
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is when you're on the phone on those call centers, right?
Oh yeah, well,
when you call in to somebody, they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're having those difficulties. Let me see what I can do." And then they still don't solve anything for you,
right.
But they say those kinds of things, and it's like, you say, they ask you how you're doing. You said, "I'm fine. How are you?" And they say, I'm well. Thank you for asking. And it's like,
right. But on the phone, there isn't the mask issue on the phone.
No.
That's why they want you in your house,
right?
Talking to people on the phone, and not even that, they want you talking to a chatbot,
right?
So
yeah. Those people in India will eventually become chatbots.
Just chatbots,
right?
Yeah. So you are experiencing a very corporate reaction in the face of something that is incredibly devastating to your individual sovereignty. We talked about the corporate aspect of this all the way back in May when we spent...
Or earlier.
Actually, we spent... So March 13th, 2020 is when the national emergency took place. Friday the 13th is when Trump made the announcement that the national emergency was declared. You don't declare a national emergency unless you're at war. So when the national emergency was declared, I turned to JP and I said, who are we at war with? Iran? Are we, who are we? China? Who are we at war with? Oh, I get it. They're waging war on us.
Right.
And that's why all of your businesses had to close, because they're waging war on you, and your hospitals had to close, and your departments in your hospitals had to close, because that's what happens when your government is taken over by corporate interests. They close down your economy.
Right.
But instead of doing it with bombs, and instead of doing it with guns to the back of your head, they did it with propaganda,
right.
And they did it with doublespeak,
right.
And pretending that there's a disease or something. So, but what we did is we spent 2 weeks kind of collecting our thoughts and taking some footage, and then we spent most of April putting the video out, mm-hmm. And I think we actually published our very first video, Quarantini, sometime in April or May.
Yeah, I forget the exact date. I meant to look at that when
right.
we were,
But we did talk about how in the video we said what you are going to experience from here on out is corporate speak. You're going to be, everything's going to be done in these really kind of beige, oblique terms.
Mm-hmm. I heard a great term the other day, and it was the language is framed. It's framed in progressive language. And I liked that a lot because it's a very it's a very academic way of talking about corporate speak.
Yeah, so corporate speak is always very progressive. It always feels really good.
Right,
but
that's
not,
what we call it feel good corporate language in the video. And we also use the term progressive, I noticed, but it was it was like the attitude was progressive, and so we were using those words and those phrases just in different order.
Right. So we're going to play a clip of that particular portion of the video to remind you, as a refresher, that we've been diagnosing this from the very beginning.
Right. Okay. We'll roll it.
This is corporate authoritarianism. This is fascism. The fascism of global governance has arrived, but it did not arrive in a grand, bombastic style like the historical fascism of the German Nazi Party. But it will be just as cruel. It will instead arrive in a bland corporate style, with policies spelled out in neutral language. Our future will be a beige, colorless world, a colorblind society that will be just as racist, ageist, ableist, classist, and prejudiced as corporations always are when they're not regulated or shamed into accepting marginalized communities. Instead, we will be shamed for not doing what we're told. And what we'll be told will be wrapped in corporate feel-good language that claims to support community, the environment, and the economy. But this will be nothing more than the same sort of scrubbing we see in corporate reports, and will be translated into actions that look progressive, positive, and trying to make the world a better place. Instead, these will be more shaming campaigns to keep people in their place. More liberties will be stripped, more freedom of movement curtailed, and freedom of speech and assembly will all but disappear. This new corporate governance cannot have us expressing ourselves, defending ourselves, or even being who we are, human beings.
Okay, so
there you go.
Yeah, I love how you said beige on that, and then the bombastic.
Right.
We were talking about the we weren't going to see the historical or historic fascism
of the 1930s,
right? The bombastic stuff of either Italian fascism or Nazism,
right?
And but what we are seeing is blunt bureaucracy filtered through corporate language.
Right. And this whole business of kicking the can down the road. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I'm the manager of the pool, for instance, and I understand that the state of California has stated in their mandates that you're not required to wear masks outside, and the pool is an outdoor pool, ergo there should not be a mask requirement at the pool. You would think, because the state of California has already made it. From what I understand, I know that things change every day, so what I say today could very well change tomorrow, or it could have changed yesterday. But last I heard and last I understood is that the so-called mask mandates, which aren't law, by the way, none of this is law, that the governor had said something along the lines of, it's okay not to wear a mask when you're outside. Like, you don't need to outside.
Yeah.
So why the manager of this pool, of this outdoor pool, is saying that in order to walk through the gate, you must wear a mask is... And then once you're on the other side of the gate, you can take it off. What does the virus, the disease, does it stop at, like, the gate, which has bars that are this far apart? Like, honestly, like, it's time to get really...
Right. Well, I put out that video on Instagram.
Sure.
We can... Yeah, let's you want to roll that?
Yeah, let's roll that.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's a really good, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we do is we, you know, in order to break the propaganda, you have to make propaganda.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But one thing that is really important because there's a lot of emotion. Emotions have escalated, especially on social media, over the last few months. Like, and I, of course, you know, I knew they would. You have to respond to the manager who's treating you, whether it's a manager of, you know, the grocery store, a manager of the coffee shop, whether it's the office manager at the dental office that you go to, or whether it's your doctor's office, or whether it's your church, or whether it's your library, or wherever you go, these people have been trained, even at your church, they have been trained in corporate speak and corporate responses, like you're a bad employee.
Right.
The police have been trained to make you the police have been trained like the way guards are trained in prisoners, that every inmate
In prisons, yeah.
or in prisons, that every inmate is going to try to shiv you, you know, if they get a chance, that every inmate is going to try to break the rules or break out. The police have also been trained that, you know, you might have a gun and shoot them in the head. They have been trained that you're an insane, unstable person. And now your grocery store clerks and the guy who serves you popcorn at the movie theater and the managers at your local pool have been trained that you are a combative, bad employee and that you must be treated with, you know, authoritarian responses, corporate responses, and cold, efficient responses. All of these people in your life, even your priest or your pastor, if you go to church, like they've even been trained, like they've all gone through their training.
Yeah.
You know, your coffee shop owner, your barista, all your baristas have been trained that you are going to be a combative customer. Every single one of us. So, you know, I just remove myself from those situations. Like I just don't even.
Well, Julie and I, you know, like we said, we have corporate backgrounds. I mean, I worked, you know, in the design world and within, you know, organizations, and you know that's almost worse because, well, anyway, and so you know you come across these people who, you know, these manager types who find ways to denigrate you or to report you or to get you in trouble somehow through like really, you know, backward ways. It just feels really, you know, weird how it happens, and it's very backstabbing. It's very pernicious, and you know, it's almost like this mental jujitsu they pull on you. I've had it done to me several times, and you'd think that you know that I would learn, but because I am who I am, I don't belong in the corporate world. Clearly, I am not that type of person. It always, you know, they always find ways to fuck me over, and you know, I finally, you know, broke free, and well, actually got forced out in a lot of ways, you know, because you can only survive so long in those kinds of environments because they will push you out because you don't belong there, and they know that. So, you know.
So you have these people that are attacking you. You say, I can't wear a mask when I go to, you know, pick up my Starbucks coffee, or I can't wear a mask to go to the laundromat, or I can't wear a mask to go into the grocery store, or I can't wear a mask or get a vaccine to go to the pool, or I can't wear a mask or, you know, to go into the public accommodation place, or even into like a government office, like say you want to go meet with your local representative or your local municipality. I can't wear a mask to go to my tenants union. I can't wear a mask to go to my job. Okay, you see where I'm going with this? And they always come back with, well, that's too bad. This is our policy. This is our corporate policy. We don't care what the law says. We don't care how you feel. This is our corporate policy. Follow our policy or get out. And that's their response. And so your response to them should be, oh, okay, well, I totally understand. Now I'm going to waste your time for the next 6 to 8 weeks of your life. You need to file this report. You need to follow up with my attorney or with the judge. I'm going to put an injunction on you. I am going to do this. And you pile it on, and you pile it on, and you pile it on. When you want to fire somebody, was a manager for a little while, and if I wanted to fire somebody, I would give them work that they were incapable of doing. I would give them
That happened
so
to me too.
much work.
Yeah.
And it's happened if you're in the corporate world and you've ever had, you know, that kind of experience, that as a manager, making sure that they can fire you, or making sure that they can undermine you. So you need to become those people. It's time to stop crying, stop getting angry, stop, you know, collapsing in grief and going, oh, woe is me. I understand. We're all very sensitive. We're all very sensitive. That's good. That means that we're still human beings. Good for us. Now what we have to do is turn it back on them. You know, oh, barista, can I get your name, please? Well, it's, you know, Molly Smith. Great. Thank you for letting me know, Molly Smith. You go to court. You file charges against Molly Smith for harassment. She's been served. The court will provide you with a server, possibly. Like, it'll get taken care of. It's not that expensive. Mostly what you want to do is you want to waste their time. You want them to have to take time away from their jobs so that they lose their income. You want to make sure that their life is incredibly complicated. And if you're a perfectly healthy person and you're having difficulty finding a reason to if you're having difficulty figuring out what they can go after because you're healthy, have you ever had a headache? Oh, looks like you're disabled. Looks like they're discriminating against you because you're disabled.
Yeah.
You know?
This whole idea that, you know, medical exemption. It's like, yes, well, we're all medically exempt
because we're all human beings.
Because we're all human beings. We shouldn't be, you know,
human
prevented
beings
from,
need to breathe,
you know,
and human beings don't need to put foreign things into their body that they don't need. So you need to waste their time. The justice system probably won't work for you depending on what county you're in. In Allegheny County, it doesn't matter. You'll never win, as we are witnessing from an Allegheny County diner that does not enforce mask policy, does not enforce social distancing, is treating people with respect and treating people like human, you know, as human beings. They had an injunction put on them by a local Allegheny County judge. This is here in Pittsburgh. Whereas when you're in Florida, you can still walk around like a free human being.
Well, or even in other counties in Pennsylvania, because there was that other
that's true.
Taste of Sicily.
Right. So another restaurant within the same state, not the same county, is totally fine. Their judge was like, yeah, we're not going to enforce this.
Right.
So it really just depends on your local county.
So, and what we find is that these counties that have big cities in them that are Democrat run, they are certainly a lot more corrupt than some of the other counties that are more rural or have smaller cities in them. And they may or may not be, Democrat or whatever. But my point is that the big cities and the counties that that they reside within tend to have more corrupt court systems. Certainly, we discovered that in San Francisco when we were there, and we've talked about that before. We don't have to go into it.
Yeah.
But we can point out that that
totally
was a very, very, very corrupt court system, and it was all politicized.
All of it.
And
it's all politicized.
That's another thing that I find is funny is that you will have people throw things at you like, you're just trying to politicize this. You're just trying to make this political. And it's like, actually, no, you're the one that's doing that.
You're the one that's politicizing
I had,
it.
In an argument with a bus driver, I basically did not argue by just saying, no, this is not what you just said it is. No, that's not what it is. No, that's not what it is. And I wasted his time, basically, and wore him down.
Nope.
As I was already in my seat, I was not going to argue with him at the front of the bus. I was in my seat, so I was already comfortable.
We don't have a car. We take the bus, by the way.
So what I guess I'm getting at is that you can counter their arguments with no. You are. I know you are, but what am I? You don't have to be childish about it.
You
can be
have been taught your whole life to be polite.
Right.
You've been taught your whole life to be polite. And politeness is why women get raped. Politeness is why, men get taken advantage of by women. Politeness is why you might be constantly getting fired from your jobs because you're too polite.
Right.
Politeness doesn't get you anywhere.
Even though
politeness,
though that's what they're telling you to be. Again,
right.
We go on about this a lot, but like
mind your P's and Q's.
Well, no.
You know,
please be kind. Be kind.
Right. Well,
be kind. Be more kind.
And
that's basically they're telling you to be polite, not be kind. Kindness is something else, and we've talked about that.
But then you've got your parents always saying, say please, say thank you. It's like, oh, fuck you, give me my goddamn popsicle. I'm not gonna beg for a popsicle when I'm 3 like a dog.
Well,
so we've been trained our whole life to be like polite to the point that it hurts us.
Well, exactly, because there is room for manners, of course.
Manners are one thing. That's fine.
In order to get along with other people, we do have rules to get along, right? But then when they start using those rules against you, right? The politeness and using your own politeness and your own real, true kindness against you is when it becomes a problem for you. It's not a problem for them. They will exploit that all they want, but when it becomes a problem, it's a problem for you. And so we have to learn how to understand the difference between, our innate kindness, our humanity, and what we're dealing with in the state of things right now in this world of fascist totalitarianism.
Right. So, just to recap, what you really need to do is waste their time.
Yeah.
That's because they're wasting your time. They're really oppressing you. They are discriminating against you.
And they're using the system to discriminate you and waste your time because, for instance, they will say, oh, well, you should go talk to that person.
It's just kicking the can down the road.
Right, in order to, find out what our policy, really is. I'm sorry, I can't personally do that. Well, you're the manager. Why can't you?
Yeah.
You have to talk to my person above me. No, this is your pay grade. This is what you're paid for.
This is your pay grade.
Yeah.
Like, this is your pay grade.
This is what you're paid for.
Right. And so apparently your pay grade makes it so that you can take time off work, not get an income unless they're salaried, and it doesn't matter. But they can take time off work away from their paycheck and go to court. And then they have to write a statement to justify why discriminating against you and forcing you to do something that is the equivalent of a medical intervention. And according to The Hague and according to the Geneva Convention, putting a medical intervention on someone is a crime against humanity. Mm-hmm. So every time you see a little kid in a mask coming out of the school or in the school bus or walking around or on the grounds at school, and you see a mask on that little kid, that is a crime against humanity. Mm-hmm. And all of the teachers and the teachers' aides and the parents,
they're complicit.
Are complicit, and they should be in court with charges filed against them for crimes against humanity. I am really tired of this, people. Other countries are getting it right. Canada is getting it right. Mm-hmm. Italy is getting it right. Germany is getting it right. What the fuck is wrong with the United States? What's wrong with us?
I think at the same time, though, you mentioned Canada. Canada's feeling a little more fashy in some places. We got that report from Prince Edward Island, I believe it was.
Right. But one of our patrons, who is Canadian, just said that what's his name, Trudeau, pulled back on the, hey, look, if you come to visit Canada, we're going to use hotel rooms.
Oh, as prisons, right?
As prisons for a few days at your expense. Mm-hmm. Okay, that statement right there, again, we're getting into propaganda, and I know we have to go on to another topic, but really quickly, that statement right there from Trudeau, if you come visit my country, if you come visit Canada, from the outside, then you need to go into a hotel room at your expense
and
quarantine for like 3 to 5 days or something. Okay, there was no way that he was ever going to enforce that anyway. What that is he is signaling. He dropped a signal into your subconscious. He dropped a signal into your thought process to make you understand that this is what your life is going to be like. And this is something that we try to illustrate. It's all about putting you on dashboards, making you pay. It's like, I need this job. Will you please hire me? Of course, we would love to hire you. But in order to get to the job where you would make the kind of money, you need to pay $2,500 for a class. But don't worry, we have a loan officer over here who is going to help you get funding for that class.
Right.
So next thing you know, you're working. You're not working just for a paycheck. You're working to put yourself into debt.
Right.
And so this business of Trudeau saying we need you to stay in a hotel at your own expense in order to quarantine for a disease that doesn't exist, it wasn't really about that.
Yeah.
What it's really about is extracting something from you at your expense.
Right.
That's called slavery.
Right.
That's totalitarianism.
It is, and they're not going to do it right now. They're just getting you used to the idea so that you will put up with it later.
Right, and
in other forms.
What are one of the ways that they can get used to people accepting this new life and this new model of what it means to be a human being? They got to stomp out the old human in you. They got to stomp it out.
Well, we had a little segment in Quarantine that kind of talks about that. I think it kind of illustrates the sort of the kernel of what we're describing. Do you want to play that?
Sure, yeah. Let's
Okay.
go ahead and play it, and we'll talk
Okay.
about it. The authoritarians want you to believe you no longer have the right to dignity, freedom of movement, or to be self-actualized. The pandemic is fascism in disguise. Has it taken over your crown and infected the most precious aspect of life, your sovereign self? Has it?
Okay, so this is the segment that you wrote, I believe, and I really liked that. And the video we found for that was really cool too.
Thanks,
Yeah.
JP.
Yeah.
So tell me what your thoughts are on it.
Well, basically, you know, our humanity is being stolen from us. It's being deliberately taken away, and it's being done in very underhanded ways. It's being done in ways that are blaming you for being a human. It's also being done in ways that, well, again, like I said, like blaming you, but also, you know, it's that whole corporate thing where they make you the bad person for just being, you know, a regular person, just like doing whatever you do. You did not meet unspoken expectations of that person you report to, and so now you have to pay for that. You're in trouble, so you have to pay for that. And I think that, you know, that the essence of what goes on there is what happens. And I think also, you know, we've been talking about the corporate world, and I'm trying to relate this back to what we just saw. Is, you know, for a while there, do you remember the whole 360 review thing, where basically, you know, they had this thing called 360 review. Now, those of you who have worked in the corporate world will understand what I'm talking about. You weren't just getting reviewed by your boss for your performance. You were also being reviewed by your peers in your department, or even people that weren't in your department. And I think this is where, you know, the communitarian thing has started getting introduced to the world.
I have
right?
a story about that.
Okay, so
I'd love to share.
So you'd get, and you wouldn't know who was saying what about you. You know, the other insidious thing about this is you would also have to then write about your performance from your point of view. And they all use those. Your boss then used those things, and they had a schedule and a template that they would use to score these things. And what was, you know, written out by your peers and by you and by them in order to give you a score, and then that would be, you know, what your performance review would basically entail. And, you know, it was pretty insidious, and I got into trouble for not doing anything, right? Just for doing my job and being who I am, and trying to work hard at getting things, you know, done that I thought were important. And yet you still get dinged no matter what happens, right? Because other people's perception of you is something you cannot control.
Right.
And
right.
And yet you're being judged on this.
Right.
And that's what's going on
right.
with this whole thing. And so I feel like this little segment that you wrote has a lot to do with what's happening. This is how they're extracting your autonomy and your sovereignty, which is what we talk about in that segment.
Yeah.
So,
I went through when I was working at Le Cordon Bleu in San Francisco, it sounds really, French, culinary, and ooh, la la. No, it's very corporate. It was run by, a guy that ran a whole bunch of for-profit schools online, and he picked up the curriculum for Le Cordon Bleu. He bought it from the French Culinary School, and they doctored it up a bit and then packaged it out.
So he basically licensed a curriculum from some other
right.
school.
So he licensed from
How
the French,
corporate is that?
From the French Culinary School, exactly.
Right.
From where Julia Childs went to school. So anyway, I was at this job for like 5 years or so, and in one of the reviews, this 360 review that he's talking about. Was like a new thing that they had incorporated into the review system. So, every quarter, you have to go meet with your manager privately, and they talk about your job performance. That's called your review.
Right.
So I met with my manager, and she's like, I'm totally fine with you. You're great. You're meeting your quota. Your students are happy. That's all that matters. But your colleagues give two of your colleagues gave you a low grade. I'm like, oh yeah, who? Give me their names. And she's like, I can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do that? That's bullshit. So I went around to every single person after my review. She's like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have done this, because she knew me. She pretty much liked me, but she was a New Yorker. So I went around to all of my colleagues. Meaning that they're just more like, they're not San Franciscans,
right? Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
They're straight shooters,
right,
okay. San Franciscans will be like, oh, come here, let me give you a hug. Well, they stab you in the back, okay.
Yeah.
Whereas a New Yorker is just like, I'm gonna shiv you, okay. Like, that's
right.
That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's basically what's gonna happen.
So I went around to all my colleagues, and I was like, I just had my review, and 2 of you in my department of like 20 gave me a bad review. Gave me the thumbs down. You want to come clean? We want to have a conversation about this? Can I take you to coffee? Well, they didn't like that. They didn't like that at all. So the next round of reviews, the 360 review thing, got taken out. They didn't do that because they don't want us talking to each other. They don't want me going to each and every one of my 20 colleagues and offering them to buy them a cup of coffee to find out why they could have potentially given me a bad review.
Yeah.
Or a negative review or a thumbs down.
And ultimately fucking up your career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So management was like, ugh, we can't have that. She just, that's why after...
She just revealed the man behind the curtain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after that round of reviews where the 360 concept was introduced into it, they didn't bring it back. They're like, no, this actually undermines team morale. It undermines it more than you. And they tell you, oh, having your colleagues review you is really cool. It's a really good thing, because I had to review all of my colleagues as well. All of my 20 colleagues, whether I couldn't stand them or not, they all got high reviews because I am a team player, and I was like, look, we're all in this together. It's us against management, And I gave all of them good reviews, no matter who they were. Even if they had tried to sabotage my career or sabotage me openly or whatever, I gave them all top marks. Well, they didn't do the same for me, and so I said, okay, that's it. I went around to each and every one of you, and I gave you top marks. Now, who the fuck gave me the thumbs down? Let me take you to coffee, and we can talk about why you would do something like that. Mm-hmm. They didn't like that. Management didn't like that, so they stopped doing the 360 review.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't have the wherewithal. I just didn't, have.
You're a different person than me.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you do that to me all the time. You always come to me and say, why did you give me a thumbs down? Do we have to go have coffee?
I know we have an interesting marriage, right? It's a partnership.
But
but I just, so that's the kind of world that we live in now.
Yeah.
They took it right out of corporate policy and this bullshit 360 review garbage, which is based out of communitarianism. And if you're not familiar, communitarianism is a philosophy that's based in fascism. It's where everybody goes and, dumps on each other's, personalities and life choices and who they are, all with the idea of like, oh, but it's for the common good, it's for the community.
There is no individualism in communitarianism. It's
not
all
at
about,
all.
And it's all about the community, and the community is not you or her or our neighbor next door. It's not us. It's other people making decisions about your future and about the world without your input. So it's a very undemocratic situation. I had a thought about what I was going to say next, and I just completely blanked on it. That's okay. No, that's okay.
Sorry, I went off.
But you can go see our video, Communitarianism, on our YouTube channel, and we'll put that in the show notes. Yeah. But the whole corporate thing, I think it's a really interesting thing that this is what's taking place. That this has been taken directly out of corporations and dumped into our lives now.
No one's going to make you get a vaccine. No one's making you wear a mask. But if you want to go to the grocery store or see a movie or go to a concert, you might have to. If you want to have a life. That's no life. To just the idea that you would have to capitulate to something, anything. That's not being a human being. That's living in an institution. That's living in a prison. Only prisoners are told, well, if you want your phone time, then you've got to do da-da-da. Then you've got to do toilet duty for a week if you want your 15 minutes of phone time. That's what being told by your pool manager or your manager at your grocery store or your drugstore, that you've got to put on a mask. That's what that is. You're being treated like a prisoner.
Right.
Or like an inmate.
Yeah, an inmate. And I think that, there's something that, we said in, I think it was in the lifelong learning where we were talking about how slavery went away, and we'll get into that in a second, but slavery went away and was replaced by wage slavery, which, could be anything from, working in an office for a corporation. It doesn't matter whether you're white collar or blue collar. Those terms really don't matter anymore. But it didn't matter whether you worked in a factory or if you worked in an office. You were working from paycheck to paycheck or whatever. You were working for a paycheck, right? Yeah. You were a wage slave. Yeah. And I think that, these concepts are now starting to dovetail, right? Whereas, you are at the mercy of the people above you, and you have no autonomy and no say. The community is working against you. Your boss is working against you. Management is working against you, right? So now we are all, corporate reports, we're all wage slaves, and we're quickly becoming inmates and slaves. And that kind of transitions into our...
Well, yeah. I mean, so we're doing... 13 Amended, which we've made available for our patrons.
Right.
Okay, so 13 Amended is the name of our latest video essay. And just as a side note, a video essay is like a documentary. So we did like a 14-page script for 13 Amended, and we realized that it would be like 2 hours or something.
It's some long.
It would be really long, like 90 minutes, and that's a long time. So we decided to break it up into 3 parts, and we've already released part 1 and 2 to our patrons. If you want to see it, become a patron.
Well, let's run the teaser. They're kind of cool. They kind of stand alone. So we'll run number 1 first, and here it is. This idea that Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation ended the profit-making enslavement of human beings is nothing more than fiction. His proclamation was really just an empty gesture to cover up for the fact that the industry was losing money by not being able to efficiently track and trace its human product. Right now, in January 2021, as we produce this video,
You are being told through the media soundbites and statements from CEOs and politicians that this stain on our nation's history is going to be reversed, and we are going to make up for the sins of our past. This is the furthest thing from the truth.
Okay, cool. So that's where we talk about, slavery a little bit, and, how the Emancipation Proclamation really wasn't about releasing the slave or changing the slave, getting rid of the slave trade. It was just basically changing the slave trade from, owning people to basically owning them through paychecks. But also, I think the more important thing in the focus of the video is that it basically said, okay, well, now we can still have slavery, but in the prison system.
Right.
And so now prisoners have been slaves for the last 150, 160 years.
Yeah.
And what we've seen in the last 20 to 15 to 20 years is turning prisoners into. Well, I mentioned a call center earlier and being in India. I mean, there's call centers in prisons.
Yeah.
Right? They're prisoners in the United States have been doing piecework, and basically they've been bringing jobs back from overseas, from Asia and other parts of the world where there's cheap labor, because the prison system allows prisoners to be paid next to nothing to do the kind of work that people overseas are doing for very little pay. And the reason that the jobs went over there in the first place is because the capitalists wanted to save money on labor costs, and so they shipped all the jobs away. Well, now the jobs are coming back, but now they're in prisons, because prison labor is basically slave labor, and they don't have to pay them nearly anything. It's just maybe a few cents per hour.
Right.
Which is just insidious, right?
Yeah.
But see, they give them that little wage to say, oh no, we're not exploiting people or anything. We're giving them a job and training them for the future. And that's totally not the case, because they rely on recidivism, which we also talk about in this video.
Right.
Do you want to see part 2?
Yeah, part 2. Part 2 is the teaser for part 2 is trending really well.
That's good.
I mean, we could show the teaser again, or we could show like a blip of the actual video, or if you want to show the teaser.
Yeah, the teaser. I like the teaser. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
The teaser is it's high octane.
It is kind of high octane. Yeah, I like making it a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's part 2, the teaser for part 2.
This is the 4th Industrial Revolution.
The 13th Amendment, the one that says that slavery don't exist in America except in prisons, And of course, we know that we're not slaves. We don't have any desire to be slaves.
It's all about humanity.
What is being built, a prison is being built in this country, and who ends up in that prison? Well, maybe we all do, but we'll certainly say future generations are going to end up in that prison.
It's all about humanity.
We are being taught that we are not human. We are simply batteries that make the machine go. With the advent of digital tracking through blockchain ledger technology and artificial intelligence, every person, everything a person does, every health issue, every transaction, every transgression can be tagged and traced on the ledger.
Yeah, it makes you want to get up and dance. Yeah, it's really
it's all about humanity.
Yeah. So part 2 is a little bit shorter. Like the actual video is a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
Again, it's available to our patrons only. So we're not going to be able to release any video essays to the public on our YouTube page until we make our goal on our Patreon page. And if you can see where we are on our goal, I think we're at like 29 or 30% of our goal, so we need to make 100% of our goal in order to be able to release.
And you can see that information on our Patreon page. So if you go to patreon.com/bookofhours, there will be something up there about, like, you know, the percentage of what we're trying to make for our goal of patrons coming in.
Right.
Okay. And what we're trying to say is that we've been doing this for about 10, 11 months now. Putting out these really high quality video essays, which are basically mini documentaries, okay? And, you know, we write the scripts, we do the research, we find imagery to illustrate what we're talking about. Sometimes we record that ourselves out in the world, and sometimes we use free sources out there to illustrate these ideas, and then we bring them all together in a package the way, you know, artists work, right? So what we're saying is that, you know, we've been doing this for free, and we've been offering them for free, and we would love to continue to offer them for free, but the problem is that we need to actually, because we live in a capitalist society, we have bills to pay just like everybody else. And so, like an artist selling a painting, we need to make an income on our work as well. And just because it's on the internet doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be free.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm sorry, I feel weird talking about this, but you know, it's just the way things are right now. And we've talked about this before, but I just want to reiterate the fact that, you know, we are sort of like a media source. Like, you know, if you ever subscribe to like a public radio station or a PBS station or something like that, it's kind of the same kind of thing. Newspapers used to charge you to read them, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very similar kind of concept,
but we're not the news.
We're not the news. We are artists, and we are interpreting what is out there in ways that artists do.
Right. There's no one really doing like what we're doing. We have these really like strong heart-to-heart conversations with our audience.
Yeah.
We have personal relationships with some of our patrons.
Yeah. There are people who inspire us, certainly, and they're doing, you know, maybe some similar work, and you know, like the guy from BBC.
Oh, right, Adam Curtis.
Adam Curtis.
He's our, you know, he's someone we strive to, you know, we always want to. You always want to have someone in your life that you really look up to and strive to be like them, and he's. You know, when we've been watching his documentaries for years, and we thought, you know, we could do this. We could really do this. We have, and we could do it even more, you know, differently than him.
Of course. Well, everybody's going to do things differently, and even artists and musicians and creative people who have influences or people that inspire them, artists that inspire them. Even if they try to copy that, it still comes out differently. Right?
Yeah.
So there's always going to be that unique signature, and we have other influences as well that don't come from the documentary world. They come from art or design, literature, and even there's audio artists out there that I really admire.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so, you know, those are some of the areas that we will start exploring in the future.
Right.
And to get there, we need to spend the time in order to make those things as interesting as possible. And so we have time, but we also need to eat. Right.
Well, or pay the bills.
Well, you know, at the same time, though, I am working a job that's part-time, and
not for long.
It's going to end soon, and so
forever.
That income that helps support us, but also allows me time to work on the videos that we produce, is going to go away soon, and that's because that's a direct correlation to COVID and the fact that, you know, schools are closing.
They're closing down his office.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we we wanted to encourage people to go to our Patreon page, not just to become patrons and to help us, help support our work, but also to educate yourself, or at least entertain yourself about, you know, the fact that the 13th Amendment is literally on its head right now, and it actually doesn't mean anything. It basically makes it so that prisoners can be slaves. The 13th Amendment is very clear. That's why we call it 13, amended, because it's like the whole idea of it that you were taught in school is completely amended. It's completely on its head. As long as we are inmates, as long as we are institutionalized, as long as we're prisoners, then it's perfectly legal for them to turn us into slaves.
Right.
You know,
and so
and that's what's happening,
right? And that's what we're stating in the videos, is that we
right.
are all becoming prisoners. We
right.
are all becoming slaves as a result of being prisoners. We've been imprisoned in our homes. We've had our minds changed to think of ourselves as prisoners. As we mentioned earlier in the video, you know, all the emotional reactions to things that are going on are completely understandable. But at the same time, we need to understand that we're becoming prisoners through these policies and through these procedures and through these actions. Our lives are being immiserated, which is a word that I never knew until this COVID thing.
It's unfortunate,
that took place,
right?
You know? And
that you have to learn a new word.
I have to well, I like learning new words. It's just that word in particular is kind of harsh. Yeah,
I'd rather learn like more versions of enlightenment.
Right, exactly.
Or sovereignty.
Yeah, you know,
or strength.
Or just fun. Yeah, different fun words too. You know,
good words, not immiseration.
Right. I mean, we started using fuckery too as a result of all this.
We brought back fuckery.
Right. You know, and that's a real word.
It's a real word.
Yeah. And so. So what I guess we're trying to say is that, you know, it's okay for you to feel bad. I was feeling a little dark before we started this today.
You're still feeling dark.
Yeah, well, I'm looking kind of dark. But the point is that, you know, it's okay to feel these things, but we also have to keep those things in check when we respond. And not react, but respond. And it's really, these are the things that we need to do. And as Julie said, we have to respond in equal and opposite ways. Not opposite so much like, you know, with force, but with, you know, just pushback.
Yeah, so,
and,
I mean,
you know, they treat you in a corporate manner, you have to treat them in a corporate manner in order to get what you want.
Yeah, so pretend that, you know, the local court system is, you know, their boss, and you're writing them up. You're writing them up for bad behavior. So you file charges of discrimination against them, or harassment, or abuse, you know?
Yeah.
Abuse of power.
Well, I mean, we saw this, okay, so last week...
Whether it turns out to be in your favor or not is not the point.
It's not the point. You're wasting your time.
The point is you want to waste their time.
Right. Also, you also want to, like, just get stuff out there. So, like, this just reminded me of, like, what AOC did, like, recently, where she basically was yelling about how... she was being treated like a sexual assault victim, when really people were just saying, you know, you're talking about, can we move on? You're kind of talking bullshit, and you're making more out of this than what actually happened.
Right.
And she's like, how dare you say that? You're treating me like a sexual assault victim.
Yeah. So she totally lied.
Well. And she came out of nowhere and made up shit.
Yeah, she came out of nowhere and made up shit. She wasn't even in the building on January 6th. Mainstream media has completely verified this even. I mean, this isn't even like, even the propaganda agents, you know, of the state, even they're like, yeah, we can't really go with her story because it's just too, like, unverifiable. Like, even, we can't even fake it. Right, you know, right. So none of what she said is true.
So then her response was to be, you know,
yeah, to call herself a rape victim because we call her out on her lies.
Yeah.
Her out and out lies.
Right.
She is an outrageous fascist.
She is.
She is.
Well, and
absolutely unhinged.
And a narcissistic psychopath.
And a total psychopath and a liar and everything. So, you know, grew up privileged.
Yeah.
The most privileged zip code in the country.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know, had a multi-million-dollar media company do a video about her pretending that she was a bartender.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
nobody in her
they
district
even played down the height of that media company too. They were
right.
They were just like, a couple that just made videos.
Golly gee, like Snopes or something,
bullshit.
right? No,
right.
no, just like a married couple that like. No, I mean that's us.
Right.
We're like the media married couple that are. That no one's paying attention to. These people were given, millions of dollars to curate a video and present an image of her that was totally false. All these posters of AOC up in her district, vote for AOC. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody knew her platform. She was called Sandy Cortez. Like, she's not who people think she is, growing up. Mm-hmm. She's like a white girl, privileged, wealthy.
Right, yeah.
Made.
Right,
not a real person.
Not M-A-I-D, M-A-D-E.
Yeah, she's made. She's a product.
Yeah.
She's not a real person. She is a curated image. And it's unfortunate that because Americans have been so propagandized and Hollywoodized, they fall for everything.
Right. Yeah.
Everything is a lie.
Well, even this whole bit with the mainstream media attacking her is partially propaganda as well, because
part of the game.
We know that her district is basically
going
on
away.
The block. It's going to be going away. It'll be gerrymandered out.
It's being rezoned.
And it's going to be rezoned.
And when
she's not going to be a politician anymore.
When you're currently representing a district that's being rezoned, you just get taken out of the scenario. It's being completely rezoned.
So
it's not even
all
about
this
it's
stuff
just so,
is all, again, the word fuckery.
It's total fuckery.
And so they're building this up and trying to make her both great and vilified
at the same
time,
yeah,
which is
so
just and so
this time next year she will have a movie under her belt. She will have done the talk show circuit on Zoom, of course.
Well, what we just talked about, where you've got these two things going on at the same time, right? Somebody was talking about Putin's administration years ago, where
that was Adam Curtis.
Was it?
Yeah.
Where you had what was going on. There was a dude who was in charge of the propaganda that was going out. So on one hand, you had Pussy Riot happening, and you had something else happening at the same time that was that lifted up the greatness of the government and then the criticism of the government, and these were being put out by the same agency within the government. Right. So they were being fucked with really hard. Well, that's what's happening to us now. I'm sure.
But the difference between Russians and Americans is Russians get it. They're like, this whole thing is a joke.
Yeah.
Because
they dealt with the whole communist regime that happened before. So they were used to misinformation being given to them.
Right.
And so they learned how to read the code of what was actually being said or what wasn't being said.
The Russian people are smart. I'm not going to lift up Vladimir Putin or anything like that. I'm not going to lift up people in great positions of power who know how to make lots of money at the
or any statesman or woman,
whatever, But I would say, as far as if you have a table of diplomats, he is the most diplomatic of all of the diplomats.
Yeah, but at the same time, he is not to be trusted.
No, nobody is to be trusted in those high positions. Nobody is. Nobody's a hero. Like, we have to stop with the hero worship. Yeah. Please stop with the hero worship. That's why we're in this position we're in right now.
How many times do we say that?
That's why you have to fucking throw on a mask to go buy toothpaste.
Right.
Because you fucking hero worshipped your whole life away. And look where you are now.
Yeah.
So hard love, whatever. It's tough love.
Yeah. Tase, kids.
Tough love. Yeah.
All right. Well,
toughen up.
We're basically at the end of our show.
Yeah, basically. So please go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We are going to be working on some new videos in the coming months. We're going to be focusing on the Green New Deal. We're going to do something called Oz, which is short for Opportunity Zone, and that'll be very personal. It's because we live in an opportunity zone. And so we get to tell you all the wonderful aspects of living in an opportunity zone. And what else are we going to do?
We had a whole list of things, and they're escaping me right now.
The Green New Deal, Opportunity Zone.
Those are the two big ones.
Oh, music.
Oh, music.
What life will be like, and this is something I've wanted to do since the summertime, and you know, other things just keep getting put in priority, and this 13 amended one felt like it should be the priority.
You know, it's funny because that kind of came up out of the blue for us. We were like, you know, maybe we should talk about this.
We should really talk about how we're transitioning into the prison life. And basically, they're taking the prison industry and they're using it as the model by which we're all going to be living our lives, or we are living our lives.
Right, and it's funny because we didn't expect it to, I didn't expect it to be that big of a topic. In fact, when we started writing it, it was like, looked like it was topping out at about 8 pages, and we're like, cool, this is going to be a real easy one to do. And then
easy-ish, nothing.
Then we started working over the script again, and next thing we knew, we had 8 more pages or whatever. So you know, it was pretty remarkable how it just started spilling out of us as we started examining the topic.
Right.
You know.
So this will be like, you know, these video essays that we will make over these next few months as we move further and further into 2021 will only be available to our patrons. That's just the way it goes.
But Bookmark will be free.
Right.
Our sketchbook, our video sketchbook series is available for free. These are short things. Julie just put out 2 this last week.
2 or 3 actually.
Yeah.
Little ones. They're always under 10 minutes. They're really short.
So look for those, and you know, you can go to our playlist section on our YouTube page, and you can see the different playlists that exist, and one of those is video sketchbook. So have a look at those. They're always fun. They're short and easy to digest. And do go to our new model series playlist, because there's a lot of good stuff in there if you haven't seen them all. We were talking about opportunity zones. There's a very short animation video called Resilient Cities, which talks about opportunity zones and the things that make up the fuckery of that whole aspect of the world. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Lots to see, and please go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/bookofhours, and become a patron for as little as $2 a month, and you can start seeing our long form essays.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
All right, everybody have a great afternoon.
Yeah, have a good time this week, and we'll see you in a week and 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Book of Hours are artists here to empower and embolden your response to the constant negative sound bites that attack your news and social media feeds. In order to continue making the video essays and art you've come to enjoy, we need your support. Make a one-time donation or become a patron. Thank you.
All right.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little dark.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay. You ready? Okay.